All right, well, I'll just drop it in post. Motherfucker, Alex Muccino, thanks for coming on today, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome back. Last time you were here, we got into some deep nerding about some guitar shit.
100%.
And at this point, I'm just confused of, so again, you started on guitar and then you moved to drum kit?
Yeah, I've been playing guitar since I was 6. My dad put me into some lessons, and that kind of started a creative spark, and just kind of moved up from there. When I was about 15, I was reached out to by a couple of my friends from school to start a band, and they needed a drummer, so I picked up drums when I was 15.
And did you ever have a kit in your life before that?
Yeah. Speaking of my dad, he was really into music as well. So at his house there was a drum kit in the basement, and I have pictures of me as like a little 2-year-old trying to play.
Nice.
So I've always kind of had it at my disposal, but never really picked it up drums seriously until I was 14, 15. But as far as guitar, that's kind of like my main thing. It's what I've been playing my whole life.
Yeah. Do you feel like learning to play kit in that kind of like really specified avenue was good for your playing? Or do you feel like as a drummer it kind of held back your chops because you're not learning just the facility of it, you're learning songs for the set list?
I'm not 100% sure if it really held me back in the sense that, like, I was only learning songs for the set list, because I was also, like, just jamming on whatever I liked at the time as well. Like, aside from the band, I just kind of would play along. Like, at the time, I was a teenager, so I was probably playing along to 21 Pilots. That
Nice.
was, like, my favorite band when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
But, no, it took a little... It was a bit of a learning curve, because the only reason... I agreed to playing drums for the band was because I had a little bit of drum experience playing snare in school band, but they wanted me to read music and all this stuff, and I never had a interest in reading music off a piece of paper. I would always hear things and play it back.
So how long did you do marching band?
Only about 2 years, and it wasn't like official marching band. This is like 8th grade freshman year, where you like still are just playing these little concerts rather than like the big dogs playing the whole marching band thing. So by the time I could have progressed to, playing in the actual marching band, I was just like, I'd rather play drums in a real band.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what kind of started everything, was my dad throwing me into guitar lessons when I was 6.
And it's great to have lessons like that where you're learning like the technical side of how to do this, but you don't get to have the thing you want to do at play. So like,
Right.
if you're taking drum lessons, you go home, you probably don't want to go play kit as much as, well, if you've been forced to play snare, if that's the chore, the moment you get on the kit, it's just play.
Yeah, it was like this whole different world of drums, where it's like, the funny story is, and I'm sure if you ask anyone from the band, they would say the same thing. First couple practices that we had, I was very new to playing kit. I had only played snare, so I didn't know how to use the kick drum pedal, and so I just didn't. So a lot of our covers, we'd be playing like, what's the Jack White?
Seven Nation?
Seven Nation, yeah.
Yeah.
And instead of the kick drum, I would do it on those parts, but I would just smack the toms, because that's all I knew how to do. I only knew how to use my hands, not my feet yet.
How tough was it to learn that independence a little bit older than when most kids start that?
It came pretty natural, just because, like I said, when I was when I was a kid, I whatever instrument was there, I would try to play it. So I had a drum kit accessible to me as a child, but I would really just kind of beat around on it and not take it seriously. And then when I had to take it seriously, it came very natural to me, because I had been kind of just dilly-dallying around on, what have you, drums, guitar, bass, piano.
Yeah.
And I still just do the same thing to this day.
So did you ever give up on guitar, at least as like your personal time and playing? Like, okay, so if kit's my thing right now, that's gonna sit in the corner and collect dust.
Yeah, it definitely took a back seat, playing guitar, and even writing music and kind of anything melodic. I really just wanted to dial in rhythmically my music the best I could. So yeah, during that time of first forming the group, I definitely took a back seat in in songwriting and guitar. And then once we kind of started writing our own stuff, I was like, oh shit, I forgot I play guitar as well. I'm not just a drummer. So, and then that kind of opened my eyes up into songwriting and trying to better my skill at everything as far as chords and song structure and stuff like that, because I never took any of that kind of stuff seriously when I was a kid. And then into my later teens, I was like, let's actually learn some of these instruments I claim I play.
Well, so how long has Saving Escape been the name of the band and kind of like your primary musical focus?
Yeah, from what I can remember my whole life, it feels like that. We started when we were 15. I was 14. Maybe I was 15. And yeah, so, for the better half of a decade, almost a decade, I have been, that's my bread and butter is Saving Escape and trying to elevate that to a new level. We've gone through many ups and downs as far as, songwriting goes and touring goes and consistent live shows and stuff. But it'll never be, and I can speak for everyone in the band, it'll never be something that I just throw away. It's those two words, Saving Escape, have become such a staple in my life that they would feel wrong to neglect that in any way.
Well, y'all have really done an incredible job with your catalog and just the ascent from being a local band to being a regional band to being a national act is so much foggier than any of us kids that ever picked up an instrument and dreamed of being a rock star ever thought it would be. It's changed so much, but y'all have some of the real trademarks of what a long-lasting musical influence would be. You have songs that have really made their way into people's lives. You've had some really influential live shows that have made you a staple kind of in the music community. And to weather some of the lulls that happen in a decade of being in a band and staying motivated and trying to make sure that this thing runs smoothly. I think a lot of folks on the listener end can't see how admirable that is.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot of blood, sweat, tears, and also compassion toward yourself to make sure you're staying motivated with it.
100%. Yeah, it's been a long journey, and thank you. Like I said, it'll never be something that goes to the wayside for any of us because of the fact that we know that, we've created something super special, not only to us, but to a lot of other people, and especially, like, to our close friends and our parents and stuff. Like, this project, this band is kind of like an omen of positivity. It's something that a lot of us can fall back on and know that, I still am in a band with my best friends, and that's really cool to me. So aside from, the profit and gaining exposure and whatever, like, that stuff's awesome. Of course I would want that to happen. I'm going to try my best for that stuff to happen. But the main reason is just that I'm, so motivated is because I just like to make music with my friends.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there's different points of affirmation for all of us in bands and in music. And there's always a carrot being held in front of us. Like, I think one of the biggest carrots is clearly going to be streams. Was Indigo Road hitting any certain trademark, well, any certain, like, quantifiable mark really solidifying for you?
Yeah.
Or was that just kind of, like, odd to watch and to say, like, it doesn't feel different?
It was I'd say a good mixture of both. It was pretty odd to watch because that was, like, our first hit single. But there wasn't any sort of, like, oh, we got to top this now, we got to take that and build from that, which, we still did that inadvertently, but it was more a kind of reward of, like, all the hard work we've put into, hearing it on the radio, hearing it play it in a Kroger in Michigan, it was like, oh, that's really cool. We created something that is now on this almost national level and that has all these numbers, which is awesome. But I think that it was more of a like a confirmation of you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. Well, it ended up on, like, Joe Bonamassa' playlist.
Yeah.
And, like, for all of us in Cincy's local scene, there's two feelings that come along with seeing a band do that. Everyone's a little jealous, and you got to watch that feeling. and everyone's a little bit more motivated because you can see that it is obtainable.
It's possible.
Yeah, someone that is going to the same jams as you, someone's going to the same shows as you, has now done that. So not only does it feel accessible, but it feels like it must happen. And I think that's where the jealousy comes in for a lot of folks. And those are hard things. You can be crabs in a bucket really quick in a music scene if you don't take the time to celebrate other people's success.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think you all are really good people in the way that you're involved in the local scene. You support the other bands around here, so folks don't have that feeling against you in that kind of odd way. But was there a day where you really saw that this thing was going to hit that mark, that you were going to get that affirmation?
Yeah, I remember the day specifically that it played on the radio because it was the same day we played Bunbury for the first time, for the only time, but because it doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, that day I remember was a kind of whirlwind of emotions for all of us because, you know, we just played this festival that all of us kind of grew up going to and knowing about, and then our song played on the radio. So it was like this kind of smack in the face of like overwhelming, like, gratitude and joy of we're doing it. But I don't think that was like none of us took that as a trophy. We took that more of like a like I said earlier, kind of a sign that to keep going and that we're doing something right.
Yeah, to know that step in the right direction is happening.
Yes,
is an incredible motivator. And when you have everyone on the same page, you're like, well, that was part of it, but it's not it. It's not the thing that we got here to do. So as you've kind of hit this period of, all right, in between albums, in between touring cycles, and you're moving over to your own material, how would you say that experience of putting out the music and seeing it grow has influenced your goals in this?
Yeah, I don't know if it's like this thing where we're going to keep trying to top ourselves. I think it's we just love creating. I'm myself specifically, I am really into like creating a whole composition of visual art of you know, the aesthetic on stage, the stage plot, the kind of look, the getup we're wearing. While the music comes first, and the music's obviously the most important thing, I really like creating a cohesive kind of world of imagery and music and whatnot. But yeah, I don't think that we would ever be writing a song or doing something to kind of benefit our numbers and to you know, obviously that's the point, is to, you know, get streaming and get more popular. But the main reason I make music and why the rest of us make music is because it's fun, and I love seeing, even if there's no like big reward or, you know, level of satisfaction as far as numbers and money afterwards, I really am more satisfied with just creating something and being able to see it back and listen to it back and kind of say, wow, you know, that started from nothing. Now it's this full album or like this live show with this stage plot and everything. Like, that's what brings me gratification.
And do you think that's amplified in a situation where you're doing all of it yourself rather than being just an element in Saving Escape? Because, you know, typically drum tracking happens so early in the process, and then they check you out, and now it's like, well, 6 months later the single's done, but I wasn't involved in any of that past week one, you know?
No, I try to be as hands-on as I can with everything, with song structure, melody, tones, kind of experimentation in the studio. That's what I love doing, and that goes with drums, that goes with the lyrics and the vocals, and it goes with any of the instrumentation as well. Like, I love just creating.
Yeah. So having this personal project, which is it going to be under your name, or is it going to have?
Yeah, it's a little bit of an alias. My full name is Alexander David Muccino. So I'll probably just cut Muccino and put everything out as Alexander David.
Okay, cool.
It's still a pretty new. Well, it's not new. I've been wanting to do this for like my whole life is create a solo project and do something on my own. But I'm still in like the infancy of everything of
Yeah.
writing songs.
Well, you don't see like you're not someone who dabbles lightly in these things.
No,
It's like,
I'm going all in. If I
Yeah.
do anything, I'm going all in.
well, and you know, we were talking about people work day gigs, people play, you know, bar gigs, whatever kind of way you got to make your money, whatever keeps you motivated to come home at the end of the day and start working on that, whether you're mixing, whether you're editing. And just even between the last time we hung out and today, it's like last time it was, well, I'm working on this. This time it's I got demos. This time I'm talking about sequencing. So where would you say is that, like that check mark day in this type of cycle where you're like, cool, I got it. This is happening. It's coming.
Yeah, it's all about how I hold myself, like the standard I hold myself to. You know what I mean? Like if I could just be lazy and not work on any music for an extended period of time, that's my own choice. But there's these kind of cycles that I catch myself in where I'm really motivated on working on something for Saving Escape. I'm really motivated in mixing and mastering music for my friends, which I've done for years as well. But the whole like Alexander David solo project thing comes back around every 6 months, and I'm like, I need to finish a project. And right now I'm in the height of that, and the finish line is still pretty far, but I'm just starting to see it.
Yeah, so you would say you haven't hit that check mark yet to know like, oh, it's here, even in the sequencing time and looking at demos and
Yeah, it like when I think I have, and then I go back and listen, and I'm like, I got a lot of work to do still.
yeah. Well, there's I would say there's a whole different skill set of being the only person working on it and telling yourself when is enough.
Yeah.
Have different songs kind of brought that line in differently, or have you just kind of been refining that feeling of enough the whole time?
A pretty good mix. There's a lot of projects that I have sitting on my computer that are done, and I know they're done, and I don't need to add anything else to them. And then there's also probably not thousands, hundreds of projects in my computer that are just like how I'm feeling for the day. You know, in the mornings I like to wake up and just see how the day sounds, see what I make that day.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it turns into a potential thing that could be a solo project thing, a Saving Escape thing, just, you know, music to sell for licensing or whatever aspect I choose to do with it. I still like to just make instrumentals just because that's what's fun to me, and then some stuff leans more in one direction than other stuff. So to say that there's like a checkpoint involved in it, yes there is, but I never really know when that is because I still just keep making stuff.
Yeah.
To where I'm like, it's a little overwhelming sometimes where I'm like, oh, I have all this stuff that I find is cool. I just have to kind of organize the music I make into these pockets of what I do.
I find personally that I can deal with that issue of control when it's just my project. Like, I found myself in a really dumb mental rut about when I'm tracking vocals. You know, like if you're doing Logic, you have the take folders. I wanted to have the same amount of take folders for every take. So I was doing full takes, and it's like, what's my issue here with having 47 of these things in jagged little parts? It's like, I think I'm just being a little bit too OCD about.
I was just about to bring up OCD.
Yeah, I would say I'm diagnosed in that category, but for some reason that thing was tweaking me out. You know, and
I was about to say I'm a little self-diagnosed with OCD, and sometimes that's huge, like a huge demise to my projects. Is like I have to have it perfectly organized. I have to have it structured out, this and that. But some of the best stuff I've made is when I'm not giving a fuck about any of that, and I'm just making stuff. And you know, the Logic project can look like a damn spider web.
Yeah.
But it makes sense to me. And yeah, I've caught myself. Like I used to create like the templates and line everything up to be verse, chorus, pre-chorus, and then I realized this is holding me back because now I have to stick to this like formula, and I make such cooler stuff that impresses me when I'm just on the fly. Just whatever sounds right next is gonna.
Yeah. Are templates the real detriment to all musicians? Like, because I've
don't
made
know.
templates that ruin my day, man.
Yeah.
Like, I go in there and I fucking made icons and I color coordinated.
Me too.
Yeah, and like,
and I've stuck to like one, and then after so long, all my stuff sounds the same. It's got the same structure. It's got the same instruments, and it's like, I had to kind of realize that it's like, let's not be so organized when it comes to
yeah.
music production.
And I think the real detriment in the in templates is over assuming what I'll need. It's like, unless it's really gonna save me time, it shouldn't be here.
Right.
I doubt there's gonna be 2 guitar tracks. I doubt I'm gonna have that MIDI keyboard going on.
It's whatever the song calls for.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm driving myself fucking nuts thinking that that's the real creative pursuits. No one has ever come over here and say like, "What's the latest template you're working on? Why don't you show me what you got?" It's
like that doesn't matter at all.
hey, I'm not impressing nobody. No one's getting as aroused as I am about this thing. But hey, kinks are kinks, man.
It's fun to do. Like it definitely scratches that itch in my brain of like organization and keeping everything orderly.
Yeah.
But like I said, when it comes down to it, sometimes it can lead to like this kind of sameness and this kind of like box that I've boxed myself into.
Yeah. I feel like that it should almost be saved for the day that I'm going to zip that folder. I've mixed, I've mastered, it's out, and now I'm just going to compress this thing. That's the day I go and I label and I color coordinate. So if this does well enough that I ever want to remix and remaster, I open that out, I'm like, oh shit,
Yeah.
look at you, you considerate bastard.
Create first, organize later.
Yeah, don't fucking clean your room. It's a waste of time.
Yeah,
Okay,
fuck
it's
that.
just gonna get
No,
messier.
I keep my room like perfectly. I do.
So we're finding out some more personality traits that might actually fall in that category.
Yep.
What was the most exciting instrument to get to play on this solo record?
I've been huge into keys and piano and old analog synths, and even trying to emulate those within the DAW. I recently bought on Facebook Marketplace a Casio CZ5000, and it's old and clunky and works 60% of the time.
Gang.
But when it does work, it's awesome. So yeah, just kind of expanding the color palette of synthesizer sounds and keys sounds, and within the DAW. This is what I've always said about piano, and that's why I'm really trying to learn it like legit this year. Is because if you know piano, you can kind of create any sound you want to within the DAW because you can MIDI control the whole thing. But yeah, that's been a super, and that's kind of always what I've liked to do is just build a color palette of sounds and kind of explore sonic palettes that I can experiment around with. While creating those templates can be kind of box myself in. At the same time, it can also cause some inspiration because I can create a new sound and save it, and then I can go back to it and experiment with this new texture and tone. So
Yeah.
that's
I just watched that episode of The Office where Gabe has the party at his apartment and Andy's throwing up because he ate the seahorse stuff.
I've
and-
never watched The Office.
Okay, well, you're missing
I'm
out.
so sorry.
This guy's puking
I'm
in his
one of those
bathroom.
guys.
He's like, I got a soundscape I'm going to play for you. It's like, it's one of the cringiest moments. But there is, like, there's a really hypnotic aspect to sitting there and just holding a
ethereal.
key. So do you like to play the MIDI part and then work on the soundscape? Or do you like to get inspired by the sound? And okay.
Yeah, that way. I just love designing new sounds, and even if that's like an analog synth or if that's within the DAW with a plugin or whatever, that's what's always going to spark the creation first. And that might be because I'm not as well versed in piano and like jumping to chords like I want to be yet. Maybe when that skill comes, then I can kind of write the chords first and then figure out the soundscape. But right now, my main thing is just kind of this is the world I want this song to live in.
Yeah.
So it's definitely the sonic tone of the song first, and then I'll kind of worry about the chords and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is kind of backwards, but
It
that's
depends
I
on
like to
what
do.
you want to get from it. And like,
Yeah.
do you typically do this in headphones world? Is it kind of like your little
No,
box? Okay.
I typically do it with monitors. I have a pair of Atoms that I got like 2 years ago that
Nice.
I love, and they're great.
Yeah, I feel like it's such a different experience to work on it, soundscapes or guitar parts in headphones versus just standing in front of it and feeling
Yeah,
the room
I'll
around
definitely
it.
go back and forth. Like headphones are super important to like kind of micro analyzing that sound that you're getting.
Yeah.
But I can worry about that later. If it sounds good at first, then lay it down, get that idea out of my brain onto the DAW, and then we'll go and we'll tweak things and dive into it.
Yeah, so tell me about like why'd you get this Casio? Like what are the sounds that you really love about that?
Well, mainly I needed a kick in the ass to like really start learning piano.
Okay.
Because I've had a MIDI controller my whole life, but like the possibilities are endless. With the Casio, I know that you can get some really cool sounds out of it because some of the artists that I enjoy use the 5000. And then also just with getting that, I was like, all right, now I have this synth. I didn't buy this for nothing. I have to use it.
Yeah.
So it's been a real push in me learning piano properly.
And are you doing that all on YouTube, or how are you kind of going about it?
Yeah, mainly YouTube tutorials. I have a really good teacher and mentor. His name is Morgan. He taught at the Lebanon Music Academy, which is where myself and the rest of Saving Escape went. And he's a killer piano player as well as a drummer. And he's kind of been my drum mentor for some of my early teen years when we were starting the band. So I'm going to pick up some proper lessons. Right now it's all been just me holding myself accountable for actually sitting down and pulling up the YouTube video piano intermediate tutorials and then just like being so bored but learning something by the end of it.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Well, like I think hammering the dexterity side of piano is definitely like the most monotonous, painful aspect of it.
It really is.
But boy, does it enlighten you to like the way your hands. It feels like they know the same things if we're training it. It's like you are so lopsided in terms of the way that your brain functions with your extremities.
Right.
Like the things that you can't do with your non-dominant hand, non-dominant foot. It really makes me concerned about the apocalypse. Like, I'm going to get my ass kicked if I don't tighten my game up.
Right.
Like, can I throw a hatchet with my left hand?
I got to be ambidextrous.
I got to be able to do some shit with this hand.
Yeah.
Like, if I tried to hammer a nail right now, am I a bigger threat to myself than anybody else with that hand? Like,
Right.
yeah, I would probably break some shit.
I
So
would agree.
I think piano's a nice way to open that up and be reminded, like, boy, I am a one-sided bitch. Okay,
Yeah.
and I got to open this up.
Well, with guitar too, with starting on guitar, it's been cool to because I can play guitar without actually knowing what I'm playing. Like I've never read music. I don't even know some of the names of the chords that I played 50% of the time. But with piano, I'm kind of transferring some of that like knowledge of, oh, this is like what I was playing on guitar, but now it's like laid out to me in a much different way. Because with guitar, I'm never really looking. I'm just playing.
Yeah.
With piano, I have to like look and like figure out where the notes are going. So that's helped me kind of learn more theory-based approach to writing music.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
When I love the math problem that happens on a piano too, because you're working with the three elements of the chord that you really need to define the chord, and then we're talking about extensions.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the
All
ways
the
you parse
flavor
this
and
out.
the sauce.
Yeah, like if no one ever explained inversions on a piano to me, then most shapes on the guitar wouldn't start to feel as comfortable as they are. It's like,
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
yeah, and if you don't get that cross-trained element, then I think it's like if you saw someone play basketball, baseball, and soccer, okay, you would say they're a great athlete.
Yeah.
But if you saw them just play basketball really well, you're like, they're a great basketball player. Like,
Yeah.
I think your musicianship comes down to the versatility across the board on a lot of these things, or else you're just a great guitar player or a great drummer.
Yeah.
But because you've always been someone in the multi-instrumentalist category, it's like you're just enriching your overall musicianship and your participation in the big thing.
Yeah.
And I would imagine on the solo record, you could feel your reservation about, well, I don't need to put that part on guitar because that's where the Casio is going to come in. That's
Right.
where this bass line is going to get affected.
Right. Yeah, I've always kind of felt a little bit of an imposter syndrome with calling myself a multi-instrumentalist because I would consider myself really good at drums and guitar, but everything else kind of just comes from fooling around on it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm really trying to take piano seriously is because I want to know, exactly what I'm playing. This time, when it comes to a new instrument, I had this weird thing a couple of years ago where I tried to learn a new instrument once a year. It's like a New Year's resolution where it happens for like a couple months and then you just stop.
What a kick in the dick that would be. Like that's, I do think once piano is under the hand, those things become a little bit more accessible because again the math is there. But
right, that's why I find it so important. That's why I'm really trying to expand my ideals as far as all instruments too. Because with piano, you kind of learn the theory. I guess you'd call it the theory of a lot of other stuff.
These days I really do just think of it like that's the math problem. Like that's the way that you can get like, well, what equals like a C7 sus4? Like,
right.
Well, I can show you the shape on guitar that's gonna do that, and I can show you a couple other shapes I can make into that. But if you make me set a piano, it's just what perfectly lines up to that.
Right.
And then there's the rearrangement of that.
And there's, like you said, there's inversions and whatnot. But with guitar, it's always been more of a feeling thing to me and more of like, have these chords under my belt, have these licks under my belt, and I just know how to play them naturally. With piano, it's a math problem, and you can kind of see it laid out to you visually right in front of you rather than like it facing away from you like guitar.
Yeah.
With that, I could lay in my bed and with my eyes closed and play guitar.
Which, if you haven't done, turn the lights off. Have a good time.
Yeah.
Kinks, you know.
But with piano, man, it's been a struggle because you do have to look at it in more of a technical way, and
until you advance to keytar. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And then you're in a John Bon Jovi cover band.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're just fucking ripping it, dude.
Do you know the band called Geese?
Geese? No, I know Goose.
Yeah, Goose is a jam band. Geese is like this weird, eclectic kind of mix of rock and rockabilly and psychedelic, and they have a guitar player.
Nice.
And he fucking shreds. That's just what made me think of that. I just saw that.
It's rad if someone does it well.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the fact that Moog doesn't have a guitar adaptability.
That's crazy.
Like, go on.
Yeah.
Give me the heaviest synth that a man's ever tried to carry on a shoulder strap and put a neck on that bitch,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Let me just go back. This is my bad idea of the day, and something about what we were talking about earlier, put it there.
Okay.
What if you could MIDI-fy someone's home? So, like, we could have, when you turn the doorknob, you get that, like, 808, like, that sound.
Oh,
when you run your hand up the rail in your house, it's like a keytar, like, bending
That'd
upward.
be incredible.
Dude.
That's right up my alley.
We Shark Tank this. We start to go into people's homes.
Hey, Sharks.
Have you ever seen Mr. Wonderful's Instagram page where he plays guitar?
Oh, I just was on a deep dive of that the other night.
It
It's
is incredible. I mean, for a guy that is such, like, a professional at what he does, you'd think he'd be able to sense that people are making fun of him the cruelest way.
Yeah.
I'm having the time of my...
Give a shit.
Dude does not give a fuck.
Because that's not his... Like, he makes his money elsewhere.
Yes.
That's just his passion project that he loves to do, and it's so apparent in those videos because he's got, like, the whole dad set up with, like, the little Yamaha mixer going to everything, and he's just, like... walking around his basement.
It's got to be analog, just has no cable management skills. He's wearing pajama pants and Crocs.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to add a little bossa nova groove. And
Those
you're
little
like, dude,
dances.
you are a cringe fest right now. But, like, I can't turn away.
No, I love it. I love it.
Also, like, a decent guitar collection, but for a guy with that much money, like, some really classless, choiceless.
Yeah.
You know, like the classic, it's not Steinberg. Steinberg makes some new headless guitars that look beautiful, like the tissue box.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what he plays, right?
Yeah. Sometimes I've seen him playing that. I'm like, I can't stand that guitar, dude. The new folks that play, like, do you know Erin Coburn?
I'm not familiar.
Erin Coburn is an amazing follow. She's been on the show once. She's awesome local guitar player that, she's just fucking popped off in the world of music. Just really killer. But she does, like, the headless guitar stuff, and
Nice.
great player, rather metal side of things, but it's classily done. Okay.
Yeah, those headless. What's the brand again?
Steinberg.
The Steinbergs. It seemed like those were primarily used for metal for a long time, but I just got hip to this record label based out of California called Marinette or Mariette or something. It's a jazz label, and there's all these guys on it. Like, this one guy specifically plays one of those headless
Steinberg.
Steinbergs, hooked up to a talk box, and just does like these crazy jazz runs with that. And those guitars are kind of having this weird resurgence, but within a jazz context, which is really cool.
Yeah. You gotta love when jazz and metal have so much in common for folks, and like when people do that really well, it is just so memeable. It's so internet. It's perfect.
Yeah.
I guess I never thought about this, where the efficiency of tuning on a headless guitar, where the ball of the string is now closer to the fretboard, so you're not having to pull the string through the nut and have issues with friction effect. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it might be more efficient for tuning. I guess I've never really given it credit.
I don't even know how you tune those guitars. Do you have to have
It's at the bass.
Okay.
So I think in a lot of settings, like you do micro tuning similar to a Floyd Rose, where, okay, get yourself close with your peg, lock it, and then you're going to come in with an Allen wrench, and you're going to fine-tune that. I think at least that's how it used to work on my Kirk Hammett ESP LTD signature guitar. Like that was like my first like really nice electric. And it was so fucking metal, dude. Like Skull and Crossbones on a Floyd Rose. I'm trying to break that shit at all points of the day. And then I'm playing in Catholic Mass with it. Just doing a lot of delay. Dude.
Ambient swells on like a metal guitar.
I wish it was even that classy. Like if I could do ambient swells, I would have. But I'm doing block chords with a bad clean tone. It was just, it was so bad.
I give a lot of credit to some of those church cats, because the music is not for me, but like the level of passion that they have for their instruments, the level of dedication and money spent on their gear. Like you always see a church guitarist with like a blue sky and all these Strymon pedals and like this beautiful like
90% of the Helix videos that I ever look up is a guy being like, and also we'll see at the Sunday service, 9:30, here's my patches, we get really hard rocking. Yeah. And I'm like, this is like if Mr. Rogers made sweet Helix patches. Like, it's too family friendly. This isn't the vibe I wanted. But that kind of is the MO. And I think when you see this big change from bars and venues, and most of the typical music venues have lowered their budget over the year for understandable reasons. It just doesn't have the return on their business that they would have wanted to. Right. But churches are investing more and more and more in the entertainment aspect of their services. Yeah. And because of that, you get these high budget players coming there saying like, yeah, I'll drop $700 on a delay pedal that I'm going to play 5 songs this Sunday, and I have 3 custom patches for those 5 songs. You know, it's like,
that's got something to say too with like just music in general and how like important that is to those Sunday services or whatever. Like music is a very important part of joining everyone together, and everyone can kind of like it's the language of the world, as cliche as it sounds. But there should be that amount of money invested into it, because it is such an important, number one, just part of church and part of life in general.
Yeah. And as you can feel in most Christian rock services, the real access to the third eye in the center of the being is the floor toms, okay? If there's not enough toms, you're not going to find Jesus. It's just impossible. Yep. I do love that meme of just like, the other day I saw this woman like pulling up to a stop sign. It wasn't the other day. It was months ago when it was warm enough to walk around. It's 9 degrees out in this bitch. Yeah. And you're standing out here without a jacket. Savage son of a bitch. Wake up a little early.
I was in a rush to get here.
But this woman's pulling up, and all I can hear is like the low end of toms in the music that she's listening to. And like I can see her really getting it behind the wheel, like almost like putting herself at risk. Yeah. And I said to my wife, this is about to be some crazy Christian rock or some serious metal. Yeah. Christian rock.
How great is our God?
Fucking Phil Collins.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's that whole genre is of just like Christian music in general is very very sought after for a lot of people, and rightfully so, because music is such an important part of church, and music is such an important part of life. So like that's why you see all these guys with these crazy expensive pedal boards and expensive drum kits, is because like it matters.
Yeah, people can notice the difference there. And like I grew up Catholic, and we won't borrow anything from any other denomination except some banging tunes, because we have pretty bad music most of the time. Yeah. Like I was given my my wife's family some serious grief because we went to a Christmas mass that I forget what song it ended with. I think it was like Joy to the World. And this lady hit the most half-assed piano slide. Like maybe she went like an octave, you know? It wasn't like a bang, it was like back to it. And there was like a bad delay. It was a stiff vibe in there.
Yeah.
But when I was growing up playing in these masses, the guy that played piano used to be Pentecostal, and he fucking felt it with every part of his being.
Hell yeah.
And it's like, that is spiritual, you know. There's nothing that gets past your conscious, self-critical part of the brain like music does, where it's shaking your spine. The low end's thick. This guy has an amazing guitar tone, and he's about to take you to see God.
Yeah, I mean with piano too, like the church organ. There's a reason why organ is like such a prevalent part of it, and that's been taken to this extreme. Do you know Corey Henry?
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh,
the
that
best
guy
in the
can
game.
Move people with just what he plays is insane.
Yeah, you want to talk about a multi-instrumentalist, like, so obviously Stevie Wonder is the one that made that, what do you call that? It's like a guitar, it's guitar strings on what looks like a piano.
Oh, the arpeggi.
Yeah, the arpeggi.
Yeah.
So that's the first time
Some
I ever
Jacob
saw.
Collier shit.
Yeah, I think a lot of us first saw Stevie Wonder playing it. Watching Corey Henry play one of those is so disgusting.
It is disgusting.
Yeah. And those guys don't have the same access to vibrato as most stringed instruments. So watching them implement that with so much soul and personality, it's like, wow.
It is very impressive.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
Was there an instrument that did you miss playing guitar during these years that Saving Escape was your bread and butter? Or was it like, I could do that whenever I wanted. I want to do this right now?
Yeah, it was more of a, you know, I put it on the back burner, but for me, guitars, I guess this is because I've learned it in such a way where it's not so theory-based. Guitars always just felt like riding a bike to me. I can just pick it back up whenever I want.
Yeah.
But that's because of the fact that it's my main instrument. It's like what I do most of my songwriting on and just playing in general. If I'm just sitting around the house, I'm usually playing guitar as well. And that's just because it's fun.
Yeah.
But there was never a time where I like thought, oh, I'm gonna lose the skill if I don't, because it was just always kind of ingrained in me. Same with drums. Like drums and guitar are like the two things that I play best. And trying to expand that and call myself a multi-instrumentalist legit has been the next kind of thing I'm trying to tackle.
Yeah. Well, and it's also like kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier. Like if you're only allowed to play snare, then playing drum kit kind of has this relief. Like if you give yourself a musical chore, then you can have your musical free time as well.
Right.
But if you make your musical free time the chore, it won't have the same life to it. Like as much as some of the gigs in my life are extremely painful, like, dude, yesterday I did the worst singing telegram of my life, okay?
no.
I don't do these often because they're not good gigs.
Okay.
So I get a call earlier in the day. I'm going to go play for someone's 93rd birthday in a memory care unit. My grandmother's in a memory care unit. So, like, I've experienced this kind of setting before.
Yeah.
Let's do it. I go in. I say, Mary, happy birthday. And she looks at me. She says, happy birthday. I was like, all right, moving on. And I play for them, and they're singing along, and we have a great time. And so I walk out of there. I made a little bit of money. I'm like, that did my heart good.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
I get a call for another singing telegram that day that's going to be in like a very rich neighborhood in northern Kentucky.
Okay.
And it's a 70th birthday. The guy who's placing the order is not going to be there, so I'm supposed to communicate with his brother. It's poorly communicated.
Sounds like a nightmare.
I scared the shit out of these people that I'm at their door in the night, you know, with a guitar, and I'm like, I'm here to play for you. And they told me they told me to call him Papa Coconuts. They didn't tell me his name.
Papa Coconuts.
Dude, so I was supposed to go play for this fucking guy, and it's 5 people in their kitchen, and it is so cringy and awful.
Oh.
And we get through it. I leave their home in shame.
Yeah. You gotta have that. You gotta have the good or the bad to accompany the good.
Well,
sometimes.
exactly. And then it's like, I walk out of there, and does that ruin music for me for the day? No. Now I feel like writing a song that means something to me because I just went through something so weird with this where it's like, no, now I got to turn the page. Like, you have to suffer a little bit in the process of this.
Right.
And anytime that you get humbled by the situation, whether it's the booze of a drunk or an awkward telegram service or an unattended show, it's like, you need to make that the chore so that you can now re-embrace the aspects of music that you love most.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it can't make you too better.
Yeah, you gotta kind of tackle the things you don't want to do sometimes to benefit. You know, even if it's just having that under your belt, saying I did that. It sucked, but I did it.
Yeah.
That can kind of teach you a little bit because the band has also played like these really shitty gigs as well, like little dive bars with drunk old dudes, and we played a hair salon one time.
No,
which was
tell me more
insane.
about that.
That was insane. That was probably the weirdest gig I've ever played. There's like this little hair salon near our like where we all used to live, and they were having like a Christmas event. And you'd think when I said we played at a hair salon, you'd think like we set up a small corner and with a kit and all that like a typical band would. No, they wanted us to like be a marching band essentially. So we were walking around with acoustics, and I had like one of those kind of travel cajon things, and then Kayla would just know Mike, and we were just like essentially Christmas caroling through a 2-story hair salon. So strange. The weirdest gig I've ever played in my life.
How long did this go on?
Probably like an hour.
Was it received well?
Yeah, received very well. People loved it.
Okay.
People loved it, but man, it was awkward in the moment. But you gotta have those gigs sometimes to be playing the big headlining slots. You gotta start somewhere, and that's Christmas caroling around a 2-story hair salon.
Yeah. And it seems like you never outgrow those gigs. It's like when you hear like real professionals talking about like bad corporate gigs, it's like, cool. Glad to know that like the opportunity for this to go horribly is never that far away.
Yeah.
You know?
That'll be one I never forget.
I played a Skyline on Mardi Gras one time with my high school band, and that was just...
Like Skyline Chili.
Yeah, as poorly attended as one would imagine a Skyline on Mardi Gras would be, you know.
Music at a Skyline.
it was just bad. You know?
Shout out Cincinnatians, man. They know what's up with that Skyline, and having live music there would be pretty cool. I would go.
Yeah. Well, and I think the unfortunate thing with the internet is it makes you think that these moments could be viral. So you go for them, like thinking like the big payoff of like millions of views and a bunch of people who love it in the comments. And one time I was real stoned at a Waffle House with my buddy. We were on the road, and I was like, dude, I should play for these people right now. Let's get a little video. So it's me and him, this father-son duo, and then the people working at Waffle House. And Waffle House has an amazing reputation for violence, and I thought we were about to be a part of violence that
I've
day.
Seen some crazy shit go down in the Waffle House, in real life and on the internet. I
think that it should be more well integrated at this point. Like, I don't want to have a fight break out while I'm at a meal. I want to go to a fight at a Waffle House, like something that's have a ref, have medical, let's make this happen.
Let's start a Waffle House boxing ring.
Dude, if you had like
Fight Club.
Exactly. Yeah. That would be amazing. None of the chairs move. We have no concerns about this.
Yeah.
Honestly, you ever seen micro wrestling?
Like
little people?
Little people wrestling. Yeah.
Exactly. I think that.
The word. Glad I didn't.
Exactly.
On the podcast.
You got to watch it. Not that this is the most well viewed. Well, it's definitely not PC, but you choose your words that are better describers than they are offenders.
I never heard it put as micro wrestling. I always heard it.
Yeah.
Blank wrestling.
Well, like, and it's they always have that event at Kings Island once a year. And
I went to those frequently.
Well, I think like micro is the name of a particular league that travels. In the similar way you have like Southwest Ohio wrestling and whatnot.
Gotcha.
If we could put those in Waffle Houses across the country,
idea.
Honestly,
that's the Shark Tank idea.
Maybe we save Red Lobster.
Do micro wrestling X Red Lobster collab.
I almost said hibachi grills, but I think that would end so poorly.
Yeah, it would be bad.
And you can't get a person off of a hibachi grill. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't scrub that enough.
People would end up with some serious burns.
On the night of that beautiful snow, which, how did you feel about the greatest snow since we were 6 years old?
I was locked in the house all day, and it was nice. Me and my roommate played Monopoly.
Sorry's a way weirder choice.
Yeah,
people.
not sorry. We just played Monopoly all day, and it was great. It felt there's kind of like this nostalgia aspect of it every time it snows like that, and happens rarely where it's like that amount.
Yeah.
There's something kind of like cozy and nostalgic about it, so I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought it was a very festive thing.
Yeah.
And
Wish it could happen on Christmas.
dude,
It never does.
if I could, we can do cloud seeding. We know it's possible. We
Right.
know they do it in parts of the world where, yes, it's a little more essential.
Yeah.
This is a holiday.
Yeah.
I chip in my $5. If you
Let's
start a
get it going.
GoFundMe for some cloud seeding, yeah. And if we can affect that it rains, like, can't we put some pigment in it? Can it rain red and green? Like, can we really get
Oh,
festive
shit.
about this?
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a great idea.
Shark Tank is gonna be fucked up when they
I
see
know,
this episode.
we come up with multi-million-dollar ideas within the span of 30 minutes.
I would pay for, like, say your buddy's gonna have a birthday party and we're gonna midify his house. Like, you don't even know everything that's set up to the MIDI, and like there's one like supercomputer in the center of the home where like people are choosing different sounds.
Yeah, the MIDI home idea is actually,
Yeah,
all jokes aside,
that'd
really
be
good
pretty
idea.
sweet.
That's really cool.
Even just have a couple products in your home,
Yeah. Even if the coffee maker, plays a little tune every time it's ready.
and then you have different presets, right? We're talking about templates again, okay?
Yeah.
So I want to color coordinate it on my main screen, but I have like a like when we lock the house down, when we turn the security system on, there's a different MIDI setup that's super ominous. Like you turn the front doors,
Yeah.
and it just persists, and then everything's gonna be out of key, like all very chromatic, all very cringy.
Mm-hmm.
Get some sweep echoes going
It's
on.
the complete opposite when you come home. It's just like a serene, kind of ethereal
Yes.
ambience that's going on.
When I come down the steps, holding my Glock, and I yell,
Dum,
"Freeze,
dum,
dirtbag!"
dum, 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 dum.
And you just have dirtbag, just dirtbag, dirtbag. This could be slick. We could take the world over.
We gotta
with
go
this.
to Shark Tank with all these ideas, man.
I think honestly, we could go straight to Mr. Wonderful with this.
Yeah.
And be
Oh,
like,
he would buy into the MIDI home in
Minutes.
Minutes.
Yeah, actually, he's an analog guy, so we may not be able to sell him.
You're
on
right.
that.
You're
Yeah.
right. But it's music based, and you can tell by the way that cat moves around that he loves
Yeah.
music.
If you were gonna have like the perfect home studio setup, what are like your big essentials?
My Adams audio monitors.
You want like the Dolby Atmos,
The big
Adams?
boys. I don't know the name of the exact model I have, but they're just like, the home studio kind of KRK adjacent ones. And I like those a lot. The audio quality of the Adams is mind-blowing to me. I'm a Logic guy, so obviously like a spec'd out Apple Mac. And then as far as gear, I just need, my kit, my guitar.
Yeah.
With my kind of setup.
Do you like having it all in one room, like a true live room setting, or do you like the isolation?
Well, that's kind of
spaces?
all I know. I'm definitely like a bedroom producer. So like within my room, I have my Casio and my MIDI, my drum kit, and then my guitar is probably laying on the floor somewhere. It's all
Nice.
just like I can grab it wherever it is.
Yeah. Have you gone to Legacy Soundworks yet?
I don't know if I've actually been, but I know of it.
Dude, you and me should go up and say hi to Eric Shepard, who runs that space.
Okay.
It is fucking crazy.
Where is Legacy?
It's right at like the tail end of Indian Hill.
Okay.
I
haven't been there.
wouldn't say it's close to Madeira. I don't know what that part of Indian Hill. It's almost like Milford-ish.
Gotcha.
But they have a gorgeous live room with, like its own drum room, its own like mixing station, a bigger space that has like the organs and the pianos and whatnot. But it's also still attached to like an Indian Hill home, so it has an
nice.
Airbnb in it.
Hell yeah.
So like 4 or 5 bedrooms, something like that. And then they have like a pool room that has like a small like bar area, I think, and it has a live feed from the mixing room.
Oh,
So
sick.
while someone's working on your record and you're taking your break time, you can be in there kicking around, like
Yeah.
listening back to the
That's
mix.
awesome.
Like,
That sounds
it's
like
fucking
a perfect setup.
yeah, dude, it's fucking stellar.
Like you were saying, like with my dream home studio setup, obviously something like that.
yeah,
Something where it's like it accommodates everything. It accommodates entertainment, housing.
yeah.
And then the studio being like the main piece. But I like that bedroom kind of like I work very I work a lot better in private in my own kind of space. So that's why I think the music production or the bedroom studio thing works really well for me. I do love being in the studio and like recording with the band has recorded on like the same console that Prince recorded on. We recorded our first EP at this studio called Sonic Lounge up in Columbus. The engineer there, his name's Joe Vierce, and he is incredible. He's recorded some huge bands, a lot of Ohio stuff. He did work with 21 Pilots. He's done work with like Nickelback, a lot of like dad rock
Yeah.
as well. But
Nickelback.
yeah, but his studio, like the that was the first time I'd ever been into a legit studio, and I was 16 or 17. And just seeing like the routing of like the XLR outputs in the wall and shit, it blew my mind because I'm so used to having my desk with my interface and that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do. There's something really cool about being in a studio like that, but I also feel like there's something really cool about the creative freedom you get when it's just your bedroom, just your place that you're comfortable, your place where you're used to it. And that's not any knock on like professional studios. Obviously, I love experimentation and the amount of things accessible, gear, what have you, in a legit studio. But there's, like I said, there's something special about like the solo kind of world of it. And then with Saving Escape's last album, we recorded at the Marble Garden, and the engineer there's name is Isaac Carnes. And that's like this really cool in between of those two worlds. So Isaac's an incredible producer. Honestly, one of my favorite musicians I've ever worked with. His idea of music and the way he views recording and just music in general is like so speaks my language. But his studio is a perfect in between of like this really professional kind of everything's routed and there's a drum tracking room and what have you in the control room. But it's got this like kind of home feel to it. There's kind of like all these old analog pieces of gear laying around that just make you want to pick it up and toy around with it, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Rather than like a expensive high budget studio where it's like everything's under lock and key. Don't touch it unless you are using it to record. Yeah, that was something that the band was really looking for when we recorded this last album, is a little bit more room for experimentation, a little bit more room to just kind of be ourselves and screw around with the songs because the songs that we had, that we brought in, were already pretty fleshed out. We had been playing them live for quite some time. But just that like element of overdubbing, like out of tune pianos and weird slide instruments and old guitars, old drum kits that are like from the 50s and 60s. That was something where like I was just like a kid in a candy shop when I was in there. It was everything that I would need or want to experiment with was just at the tip of my fingers, which is awesome.
Do you ever feel that hesitancy about adding in post-production layers that are going to be harder to implement in a live setting?
No, I have a huge take on this, and I don't know if it's a hot take or if other people agree with me, but I don't give a shit if that can be emulated live. So the band's songs are all guitar, drum, bass, and vocals. But I think there's something really important about overdubs that kind of separate. I like that separation of the live version of the song versus the studio version. In the studio version, you can hear this faint effect in the background, or like these, I used a lot of like SP404 for like sampling on the record. And I use my 404 live, but not in the same way I did in the studio. And there's something cool there where it's like, this is how it goes when we play it live, but this is how the song sounds. And I relate all this back every time I have this conversation about the Beatles. There was a clear break where the Beatles said, I don't care if we can play it live or not. We're not going to play live anymore, actually. We are just going to spend time in the studio creating these worlds of orchestras and Mellotron and all this cool shit that we can't pull off live, but that's why they're one of the best bands in the world, is because they created Sgt. Pepper's, like this whole like concept and world within an album that wouldn't be possible if it was just four guys playing at the same time.
Yeah, I love the What's the album that is right after they decide they're not going to tour? And did you know that decision happened
Yeah.
in Cincinnati?
Oh, in Cincinnati?
Yeah,
No.
they were staying in Newport after they had played at what River's Edge or whatever the name of that huge stadium was. And the show
my
had gone
friend's grandma was at that show.
no shit. Well, it went so poorly because of electrical issues and the rain that they couldn't figure out a way to go play. And it was too fucking chaotic.
Gotcha.
And so in their hotel room in Newport, Kentucky, they decided that the Beatles would no longer tour.
Wow.
They were gonna finish
I
that
didn't know
run
that
and
that
be
happened
done.
in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Teach me something new. It was Revolver and Rubber Soul. I don't know which one was first, but both of those albums were like their breaking point of like, we're just gonna make albums now. We're not gonna be like this suit and tie, singy song band anymore.
Yeah.
Which I love. I love that version of the Beatles as well. But there's something really cool. I don't know if it's because like they did it first or if it's because they were so damn good at what they were doing. Of like hearing just this huge jump between like I wanna hold your hand and then like songs like what's the song with sitar? I once met a
Off of
girl.
is that
I think it's
Norwegian
off
Wood?
Revolver, Norwegian Wood, yeah.
Yeah. Dude,
It's off Rubber Soul.
some of those early Beatles are bangers in a different way of like some of the truest earworms I think will ever be created.
Just incredible songwriting. And
Yeah.
that's why the Beatles are what they are, is because they were so talented at songwriting first, and then they kind of pushed it into this world of experimentation of let's create like a color palette, a world within the album that can't be pulled off live. But that's kind of the charm of it, is like you have all these things going on, all these weird, wacky sounds. And they were the first to do that, which is super impressive.
Yeah. Well, I bring up this idea a lot where like I picture a song like a room. And going back to like that John Mayer quote that's kind of circulating around, it's like if the song doesn't work, vocal and guitar, vocal and piano, whatever that chordal piece is to pull it, and then like the true essence of the song, the rest is just the arrangement.
Yeah.
You can't decorate the room that isn't put together if it doesn't have a fucking ceiling or it doesn't have a basement.
Yeah.
It's like there's nothing to arrange here, and you've cut yourself off so much from what the idea is in essence.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of like you're saying, like the song exists as it is, but in this version of it, we're gonna put a little bit more on the walls, and when we do it live, yeah, it's a little bit more meat and potatoes, but that doesn't change the essence of the song.
Right. A good song is a good song, no matter if it's live or on the record.
Yeah, and I think with the era of modern pop stars, where it's like, well, if you go see a T Swift or Sabrina Carpenter or whoever, like that kind of pop star is, if the song's not almost exactly how you heard it, you're kind of missing something because the arrangement is so much of the show.
Yeah.
And they re-emphasize with the choreography and the visual projections and whatnot. Yeah. But in a lot of rock band cases, it's like you're not going to see the song in that kind of facility. You're not trying to see it perfectly to how the record was. You want the energy and the essence of it.
And sometimes you have a band like Led Zeppelin, for example, who's like, the song's going to sound as good live as it does on the record, because on the record it's live. Like it's just guys in a room playing music.
Yeah.
But we've had a couple conversations about that as well, with kind of the different approaches to songwriting. I am now learning how difficult but how fulfilling it is to write a song with just lyrics and guitar. And I never really did I did versions of that with Saving Escape, but with writing my own stuff, I was always I'm a producer first, so I was always producing these like really thought out instrumentals with all these cool sounds, and that's what was fun. That's what is fun to me. But I'm kind of reverse engineering it, which I guess is the way you should do it. Of like, let's just find some chords and write a song over top of chords, rather than like structure out this whole instrumental and then try to like cram lyrics and melodies within this thing you already have. If it starts in that more natural way of conceiving an idea with just music and lyrics, I feel like sometimes, most of the time, to me, that can be a lot more fulfilling, of like, I have this thing. Now let's expand on that. Rather than the approach I was taking was let's take this big, structured out instrumental and then try to write lyrics on top of that. I'm doing the opposite now, and that's kind of like opened my mind up to a way different approach. And my songs that I've been writing recently sound a lot different because I've been approaching it like that rather than starting with the end product and then working myself backwards. I'm starting from nothing and then building it. So,
well, and there's good things about both sides of that approach, but if you don't learn to get to the inspiration from both angles, then you start to miss things. And like, this song is so much more informative to the arrangement than the arrangement is to the song, in my opinion. Like, you're going to start making room for things where now we're missing out of context. Whereas if you go from lyric to music, like, it's easier to say, okay, well, we don't need this extra part of this string line here because I want to get the word out.
Yeah.
I have a similar issue right now where I do this looper version of my show, which is where the essence of the song really shines, in my opinion. And then I have these bigger band arrangements where we got the horn section, we got auxiliary percussion, and both of them are really fulfilling to me. So which one of those ends up as the studio product? It's way harder to take this big band idea and put it into a clean 3-minute version of it than it is to take the looper version, which it really does feel like how production works and how I think about those things.
Yeah.
So now I'm reaching this compromise point where, some things are going to get live drums, some things are going to get programmed drums. Sometimes the horns are going to come in, sometimes it's going to get replaced by a guitar line that's going to be there. But letting it exist, the essence of the song can be plugged in so many different ways. Like, that's why some covers have become better than the original, because the essence of the song was so good that's applicable in multiple arrangements. But you get dried out when the arrangement gets applied to multiple essences of the song. That's where bands start to sound redundant. Every song sounds the same because you lived in the template, you lived in the formula. It's how you sound, and that's all we got.
Yeah.
Versus Johnny Cash refusing a Nine Inch Nails song for so long until Rick Rubin's like, I got a gun to your head, okay? We're going to do this fucking song.
Shout out Rick Rubin.
Yeah, there's a great interview I recently listened to. I think it's his Rick Beato interview where he's talking about how many times that he had to mail CDs to Johnny to get him to listen to ideas that he was wanting him to cover. He's like, on most Johnny Cash record, you have maybe 3 to 5 originally written songs and then 3 to 5 covers. So I'm mailing him CDs that have covers. And the sequence of what I think, he goes, I sent him probably 6 or 7 CDs where the first song is that Nine Inch Nails song. And Johnny calls me one day. He's like, why do you keep sending me this? He's like, it doesn't work. He's like, I just think we should do it.
Yeah.
And there's something really weird where the universe and the influence of God and spirituality, it's like, you can call it whatever you want. But his reservation towards that was so it hit right when it should.
Yep.
Right? It's like the fucking bookend on one of the most unbelievable musical careers we could ever imagine. And it is so painful to get through that song that we had to wait. Even Rick Rubin had to wait. And he could feel it. He could feel that inkling.
Well, and he knew from jump. Like, Rick Rubin specifically is just such a... It's a cliche at this point, but like, that guy really has this whole different approach to music and how he views it and how he works with artists. And I'm reading his book right now. And so that's why I said shout out, because like, just being able to pick that guy's brain, and not that I did it personally, but just like from the things that he writes about, has been a huge eye opener. And a really good, like, kind of self-discipline thing as well. Like, that's why I'm kind of just now getting hip to these different ways and approaches of songwriting and these different approaches of live shows versus the studio stuff, like we were just talking about. Like, he touches on all that. And not only music, but like also this like kind of philosophical way to view life as well, which I've learned a lot from, and I'm only like 3 chapters in, but it's
I've had a hard
taught
time
me.
taking that book in a linear way. I feel like it's almost best to open it up, take something from it, and close it back.
I could
like,
totally see how that applies with that book specifically, because I am not a reader. I don't read.
Yeah.
But with that book, it's like I gotta see what this guy, how his brain works, and so far it's been very interesting.
Yeah. Well, I've always heard like the advice for songwriting to like what one of the first things that removes me from inspiration is when I go into a rhyming dictionary and I start fishing for words. Like typically
yeah.
that fucks up the flow.
Yeah.
But I've always heard really good things of folks saying like, pick up an encyclopedia, pick up the Bible, take a line from a place
Yeah.
that is just endlessly prepared to feed you inspiration,
Right.
and drive from there. Like if you really have nothing.
Yeah.
But the moment that you look for something to help you follow the inspiration, like that is a derailment.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still learning what is the right way for me to find the song and to stay in touch with the song.
Yeah, with inspiration like that, it just comes in such a way where if you force it, like, reading the rhyme dictionary or listening to the same things that you've listened to for your whole life to try to gain some further inspiration, is not going to ever be the same as if you stumble upon something in the wild, a book or a piece of music or a movie. Sometimes those different forms of media can influence you and inspire you in a much different way than if you sat down and tried to inspire yourself, I've learned. And sometimes, like, this goes back to writing for the band versus writing for myself or writing for other musical outlets that I have. If I sit there and I'm like trying to make a Alexander David thing or make a Saving Escape thing, then most of the time it's not gonna land like I want it to. But when I'm sitting there and I'm just making music because I'm making music and it's fun, that's when the best ideas come. So like this forced inspiration thing, I've really steered away from. Like I try my best to stay inspired, but I can't force it naturally.
Yeah.
And sometimes those natural bursts of inspiration are a lot more, not elevating. What's the word? They can move you up to that goal, into that place you want to be, no matter if it's a book or a movie or a song, like I'm saying, without directly kind of like being like, this is the music I want to make. This is the thing I want to do. Because sometimes the thing that you want to do most of the time hasn't existed yet because it's in your brain. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to make music that you want to hear. And if the music that you want to hear is already made, then take some inspiration elsewhere.
Yeah.
You know?
I heard a great story the other day about who sings "I'm not gonna write you a love song."
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've heard that song in
furious.
every Blockbuster and CVS I've ever been to in my life.
Hey, Blockbuster had an incredible display of music. don't hold them back, dog. But apparently she wrote that because the record label was telling her, like, you need a love song hit. We need you to go back. And it's like, that is not inspiring.
Yeah.
Like, but the fuck you.
And did the complete opposite of that. And then it's kind of a love song, but not in the way it's... Yeah,
hearing that,
cool.
I was like, oh, it's so perfect.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you just need to be open to whatever your interpretation of like your morning routine when you get up and you go to write. Is there a certain format that you find to get in there? Do you ignore the phone, get up and go to it?
I have been trying to just ignore the phone in general, even if I'm not, gonna wake up and write music right away.
Explains why you're so fucking late.
Yeah. It's because I stay up till 4 a.m. trying to make music.
That's awesome. You don't need excuses here. I got nothing to do all this.
No, I don't really follow a specific format. I usually just, like I said, hop on the computer or pick up a guitar and see what today sounds like. That's been like my main thing recently, is just like make something every day just to see, what you can come up with that day. And sometimes it's shit, and most of the time it's shit. But every so often that inspiration strikes, and it's going to happen when you least expect it. And so if I just keep making music because it's fun, that eventually I will stumble into something that, means something that I like. But yeah, there's no real routine or thought process that goes into it. I just make music every morning.
Yeah. Well, I think that leaves us at a good anticipation of what's to come with this upcoming album for you. Like,
Yeah.
do you have a timeline in mind, or is it I'll finish it when I finish it, I put it out when I put it out?
I wish there was a timeline in mind. I wish that I was a little closer to my end goal, but
Then give us a date right now and hold to it, and I'll clip this.
I will put out a solo project. I'll give myself a good amount of time. I'll put out a solo project on my birthday of this year, which is November 28th.
Cool. We'll be waiting. Come back on beforehand and let us know, and maybe we'll listen to a track
I'll do
or something
a PR
like that.
run for it.
Cool. That's awesome. I'm a believer that the right people and the right things into your life when you need them. And the first time I go to Hi-Fi, to be standing outside and get to chat with you and to continually build friendships and relationships with people that care about this thing in a similar way and really go for it is such a good thing for all of us. So thank you for being an inspiring friend and taking the time to come over today. I really enjoy all the Saving Escape stuff I've ever heard. I'm looking forward to hearing this demo, and you're kicking the fucking door in, brother. So.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me on here. It's really cool to be able to speak my mind about kind of these things that I think about as far as music goes.
Absolutely, man.
Kind of just it's been enjoyable. Thank you.
Anytime, brother.
Yeah.
Friends of the Weekly Wave, thanks for watching. Get in the comments, talk your shit, and hopefully I see you soon, players. Peace.